Penguin Random House Audio presents Our Women on the Ground. Essays by Arab women reporting from the Arab world. Edited by Zara Hankir. Foreword by Christiane Amanpour. Read for you by Soneela Nankani. Foreword. I began my career as a foreign correspondent in the First Gulf War, and somehow, serendipitously, CNN paired me up with an all-female camera crew. That was the summer of 1990 in Saudi Arabia. Suffice to say, we were an unusual-looking team. But somehow it worked. Our gender and our professionalism actually opened doors instead of slamming them in our faces. Since then, I've worked alongside many great female journalists from all over the world, from my fellow anchors and correspondents to producers and photojournalists. I have discovered them to be some of the bravest, most inspiring, provocative, energetic, and resourceful of my colleagues. The Balkan Wars of the 1990s represented a game-changing shift in the rules of our road. It was during those conflicts that our reporters' immunity ended. No longer were we considered neutral, objective witnesses. We became deliberate targets. Ever since, journalists have been swallowed up into the tribal politics of the global environment, pulled, usually against our will, into one ideological corner or another. My late colleague, Margaret Moth, a camera woman, was shot by a sniper and almost killed in Sarajevo. The van in which she was traveling was clearly labeled as a press vehicle, but it didn't matter. The bullet shattered her jaw, blew out her teeth and part of her tongue. All of us were immensely angry at what had happened to her, but Margaret was philosophical. "I don't blame anyone for firing at me," she said. "They're in a war, and I stepped into it." She returned to Bosnia as soon as she was physically able. She was utterly fearless and a source of inspiration for journalists across the world. I see Margaret's attitude and spirit in many other women who live and work amid the unrest and oppression that the world endures today. The journalists in this book have demonstrated the highest professional achievements and courage. Of course, many of these journalists are local, covering their own homelands. Many of their stories are in the Middle East and the Arab world, where societal norms and traditions continue to place complex obstacles in the paths of women. To become a journalist in some of these places takes a special kind of courage for a woman. It can mean defying family and community, and it brings unique challenges and entails sacrifices specific to women. But women's voices are crucial to gaining a full understanding of a story. Without the female perspective, the full picture simply cannot be painted. And often, particularly in the Middle East and the Arab world, female protagonists can be given a voice only by other women. Women can enter places and speak to people their male colleagues simply cannot. Sometimes they can ask questions that would not be tolerated from their male counterparts. Conflict zones today are even more dangerous than those that I experienced decades ago in Bosnia. Lines are more blurred, actions less predictable, the consequences of mistakes more dire. Those who choose to enter these theaters, both male and female, deserve our respect and admiration. As professional journalists, we must continue to nurture, encourage, support, protect, and fight for those who make this choice. We must also make sure more women are among their ranks, because without them, the stories of today and tomorrow will remain only partly told. Christiane Amanpour. Introduction. Sahafia. I come from there, and I have memories. Mahmoud Darwish. When I first visited Ruqayya Hassan's Facebook page in 2014, I was struck by her profile photo. The Syrian woman had paired a black hijab with a figure-hugging top that was embroidered with gold sequins. Her eyebrows were impeccably groomed, and bronzer contoured her cheekbones. It was a daring look, considering she lived in Raqqa, the northern Syrian city that was, at the time, controlled by the most brutal Islamist group in the world. Most striking, though, was the defiant expression on Ruqayya's face. A defiance reflected in each one of her Facebook posts. Everything about the petite woman screamed, "I am here and I will not be silenced." Ruqayya was a Sahafiya, a woman journalist, who secretly reported on the crimes of ISIS from inside Raqqa. But she was no ordinary reporter, at least by mainstream media standards. The 30-year-old of Kurdish descent wasn't employed by a major news outlet. She never had a byline or a dateline, and was never trained to cover warfare. She hadn't conducted any interviews, and she certainly wasn't impartial. She'd participated in anti-government protests and openly criticized Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. It's important to note that Ruqayya was of Kurdish, not Arab, descent, though she was Syrian by nationality. While this book centers on women of Arab ancestry, many women of the broader Middle East share the exact same social, political, and cultural challenges. That said, by using the catch-all term Arab, we by no means aim to present the 22 countries that comprise the Arab world as monolithic. Nor do we want to depict the experiences of its more than 400 million people as one and the same. On the contrary, we wish to illustrate just how rich and wide-ranging this area of the world is. Our decision to categorize the authors in this book as Arab is in part due to their shared linguistic heritage, although it's worth acknowledging that even then, across the Arab world, dozens of dialects are spoken. Online, Ruqayya was fearless, even though vocal opponents of ISIS were often swiftly executed. The citizen Sahafiya wrote in chilling detail, under a pen name, Nisan Ibrahim, about the atrocities the group was waging on the people of Raqqa. She shared her reports on Facebook, sometimes posting several times a day. As Ruqayya amassed a large social media following, her friends advised her to take down the photos of herself that were viewable to the public to protect her identity, but she refused. A philosophy graduate of the University of Aleppo, Ruqayya was known for the personal, poetic, and somber tone of her social media posts, which were always written in Arabic. She wavered between reporting what she'd witnessed and writing about how she felt. In December 2014, less than a year after ISIS declared Raqqa the capital of its caliphate, she posted the following. In Syria, life and dignity have become two parallel lines that never meet. Ruqayya mostly referred to ISIS as Daesh, an acronym for Al-Dawla al-Islamiyya fi al-Iraq wa al-Sham, the Islamic State of Iraq and Greater Syria, which has reportedly drawn the ire of some ISIS commanders as it strips the terror group's label of its reference to Islam. Daesh has closed all internet cafes in the countryside, and most likely in the city, too. The citizen Sahafiya wrote in June 2015, "Without the internet, we will lose our only way of communicating. Dear God, emigration is a loss of dignity and a form of humiliation, while staying here is hell. Dear God, where should we go?" What Ruqayya presented in her harrowing posts was an authentic account of the events unraveling on the ground in Raqqa. Those accounts came at a time when few Westerners could report from within Syria, but they nonetheless commanded the international journalistic narrative on the country from afar. One of Rukaya's final posts on Facebook was also her most unsettling.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?